It started like a thunderclap. Barely 8 minutes in, and Barcelona were already ahead. Robert Lewandowski, the man who still moves like time forgot he is in his mid-30s, was there at the sharp end of a lightning break. One chance, one finish, bottom left corner. It felt almost cruel, like showing up to a friendly with a chainsaw when everyone else brought water balloons. And before Seoul had even shaken off the shock, Lamine Yamal, the kid, the new number 10, the face of every overblown headline about the future of football, decided he wanted in on the chaos. 14 minutes gone, left foot curling, ball kissing the bottom corner. 2-0. 2 punches to the gut. You could almost hear the air being sucked out of the stadium. But here is the thing about football. It loves a plot twist. And Seoul, they didn't fold. 26th minute. Cho Young-wook, calm as you like, rifled one in from the center of the box. One back. You felt the shift, like a glass of water starting to wobble on the edge of the table. Barcelona still had the ball, still had the patterns, but Seoul weren't just extras in someone else's highlight reel. Then in stoppage time, right when you thought Barcelona might stroll into halftime with the lead, Yazan Al-Arab sneaks in. Center of the box, left foot, bottom right corner. 2-2. The place erupted. For a few seconds, you forgot this was preseason. You forgot this was supposed to be a tour. It felt like a real fight, not just a training ground exhibition. And that's when Yamal decided to rip the script up again. The ball comes to him, that left foot of his always looking like it has a secret plan. He controls, finds half a yard, lashes it high into the net. 3-2, Barcelona. A first half that felt like it lasted about 6 minutes and 15 heart attacks. It wasn't just the goals. It was the speed of it all. Barcelona's passing had that cruel snap, the one that makes defenders look like they're being turned by remote control. Rafinha buzzing, Dani Olmo threading passes like he was stitching up the defense, Frankie de Jong gliding like he'd never heard of gravity. And yet, Seoul stayed in it. Jesse Lingard, yes, that Jesse Lingard, floating into pockets, Anderson Oliveira running like his boots were on fire, and Young-wook Cho refusing to be an obedient sparring partner. Every time Barcelona looked ready to roll over their hosts, Seoul punched back. There was a wild joy to it, a sense that this wasn't just about scorelines. It was about saying, you came here thinking this was a victory parade? Think again. Halftime. 3-2 Barcelona. But it didn't feel settled. Not by a long shot. It felt like we just watched a movie where the first act ends with the hero dangling off a cliff, and you just know the next act is going to be ridiculous. The second half started like someone had hit shuffle on a mixtape. 11 changes for Barcelona, a whole new cast thrown on stage, and Seoul swapped out half their lineup too. It was chaos in the best possible way, new players scrambling to leave fingerprints on a match already bursting with drama. Andreas Christensen, of all people, decided he wanted to play striker. 55th minute, ball at his feet outside the box, a clean right-footed strike that kissed the bottom corner. 4-2. A center back doing that. Preseason always has a little bit of fever dream energy, but the real shock was how relentless Barcelona stayed. Ferran Torres comes on like a man who got the memo that preseason goals count double for confidence. 74th minute, bang! Left side of the box, low finish. 5-2, and you think, all right, this is going to become one of those soulless exhibitions. But no. Gavi, the stand-in captain, a kid who plays like someone stuffed 3 angry midfielders into one teenager, adds another in the 76th minute. 6-2. It felt like every Barcelona player was taking turns, like an open mic night where everyone's routine is just scoring goals. Still, Seoul refused to just politely lose. 85th minute, Jung Han-min grabs one back after Barcelona's defense fell apart like it was held together with chewing gum. 6-3. And you could almost hear the grin from the home fans. Their team was still swinging, still trying to leave scars on a giant. But the final word? Ferran Torres again. 88th minute. Rashford, who'd been desperate to score on his debut but denied twice by Choi Chul-won, lays it on a plate. Torres slots it home. 7-3. The exclamation point at the end of a sentence that already felt like it was shouting. The crazy part? It never felt boring. Even at 7-3, it wasn't just Barcelona toying with their food. Rashford looked like a man trying to kickstart a new chapter. Fermin Lopez cracked shots from distance like he was auditioning for a highlight reel. Even Tony Fernandez was forcing saves out of Choi Chul-won, who must have felt like he was trapped in some cruel video game with the difficulty slider jammed up to impossible. It was messy, chaotic, and just the right kind of unhinged. A preseason friendly in name only. And by the final whistle, as Seoul's players waved to their fans, you felt it. This wasn't humiliation, it was spectacle. They'd scored 3 against Barcelona. They'd traded blows. And Barcelona? They walked off grinning, because 7 goals in front of a roaring crowd in South Korea felt like the perfect preseason postcard. But the story wasn't just the goals. No, it was what the match told us about these two teams, about where they are and what they're becoming. And that, honestly, is where it gets interesting. Barcelona looked like a team living in 2 different timelines at once. On one hand, there was the core. Lewandowski finishing like a man who has made a career out of treating the penalty area as his private office, Frenkie de Jong running the midfield like an understated conductor, and Dani Olmo sliding passes through impossible gaps. It was everything you expect from a team that just won the league. Calm, clinical, terrifyingly good when they felt like turning the screw. But then, swap the whole 11 out at halftime and suddenly you saw the experiment. Marcus Rashford. Yes, Marcus Rashford in Barcelona colors, buzzing around, desperate to leave a mark. He didn't score, but he looked hungry, sharp, like a player trying to shake off the shadows of a miserable year in Manchester. Fermin Lopez, Tony Fernandez, Guille Fernandez, names that don't yet carry weight, but you could see the fight. Even Andreas Christensen, normally about as glamorous as a tax form, was out there scoring bangers. And then there is Lamine Yamal, 18 years old, wearing number 10, scoring twice like it was just another day at the office. It is so easy to drown in hype around a kid like that, but this didn't feel like empty headlines. His goals had that mix of flair and finality that makes you stop and think, oh, this might really be something. What stood out was how deep Barcelona's talent runs now. Gavi, who wore the armband in the second half, played like a kid who sees captaincy not as an honor, but as a personal challenge to kick everyone's ankles twice as hard. Ferran Torres looked like he'd been jolted awake by the competition. 2 goals that screamed, "Remember me?" And Rashford, well, if he can build on this, Barcelona might have pulled off the loan of the summer. But Seoul deserved their flowers too. They weren't just extras. Cho Young-wook and Yazan Al-Arab scoring to make it 2-2 in the first half. Those were moments of pure defiance. Anderson Oliveira ran himself into the ground, Jesse Lingard had those little flashes of unpredictability, and Jung Han-min's late goal was proof they never stopped believing they could hurt Barcelona. That's what made this more than a simple thrashing. Seoul had pride. They fought. Even at 6-2, they were still trying to push forward, still trying to score again. And when Han-min made it 6-3, you could see what it meant. A preseason friendly in name, but for Seoul, this was a night to show they belonged on the pitch with giants. It told you something about both teams. Barcelona sharpening their weapons, Seoul refusing to be a footnote. And it set the stage for talking about the individuals who made this match feel like it belonged on a highlight reel, not just in a dusty preseason archive. Lamine Yamal, you cannot start anywhere else. 2 goals, both with that left foot that feels like it has been dipped in gold. The first was clean, precise, a reminder that even teenagers can make the game look effortless. The second, that strike before halftime, had a touch of arrogance about it, the good kind. The kind great players have when they know they can decide moments. 18 years old, number 10 on his back, talking afterward about living out a childhood dream. If you didn't feel a chill, you might be dead inside. Robert Lewandowski did what Robert Lewandowski does. 1 chance, 1 goal, a reminder that even in preseason, strikers like him don't forget their job descriptions. Frenkie de Jong? Silky, gliding past people, linking everything together, like the metronome that never misses a beat. Dani Olmo didn't get on the score sheet, but his through ball for Yamal's second goal was the sort of pass that makes defenders want to walk straight to the dressing room and sit in silence for a while. Andreas Christensen deserves his flowers. Center backs are not supposed to step up and smack one in from outside the box like that. It was a moment where you just laugh because no one, Not even Christensen himself saw it coming. Then there was Ferran Torres. 2 goals that will mean more than just preseason stats. You could feel the relief in his celebrations, like a player desperate to show he still belongs at this level. Rashford didn't score, but he looked sharp, forcing saves, linking up well, and eventually setting up Torres' second. If this loan spell works, Barcelona might have unlocked a version of Rashford we haven't seen in years. Gavi, wearing the armband in the second half, was pure chaos, snapping into tackles, scoring with that low drive, and generally playing like someone who refuses to be told he is too young to lead. Fermin Lopez and Tony Fernandes both had their moments, cracking shots and forcing saves. There was this hunger about the younger players, a sense that every minute mattered. And Seoul? Cho Young-wook's goal was quality, the kind of finish that says, "I do this every week in my league. Do not forget my name." Yazan Al-Arab's equalizer had that perfect blend of power and placement, a moment that made the crowd believe. Jung Han-min's late goal might not have changed the scoreline, but it was a punch in the face of inevitability, a final statement that Seoul never gave up. Even Choi Chul-won in goal, who shipped 4 in the second half, deserves credit. The guy made saves that stopped it from being truly ugly. Sometimes keeping it from being 10-3 is as heroic as scoring yourself. That is why this game felt alive. It was not just 7-3 on paper. It was a collision of stories. A kid proving the number 10 shirt is safe on his back, a new signing showing flashes of promise, forgotten names demanding attention, and underdogs scoring goals that will live with them long after preseason is over. And that is it. This has been Across the Pitch. Over and out.